woman, hear me roar. Often taken for granted, but it's the foundation that holds families together. I am woman, worthy of love and possess the wisdom that helps shape each generation. I am every woman, mother to the young, the old, and the indifferent. I am needed in high authorities, and I stand side by side with the strong. I am woman, an anchor that holds each ship sturdy, whether companionship, leadership, relationship, or friendship. I am woman, nurturer by birth. I empower. I am boss. Woman is boss.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My dear sisters, it's my distinguished privilege to bring you Sisters Circle of Love. This is a collaboration between APC Community Services and the Guyana Conference of Seventh-day Adventist Women's Ministry. We have set aside this time to celebrate our sisters for your spiritual strength, your resilience, your resourcefulness, your creativity, and yes, your nurturing spirit. So this celebration is for you. So we thank you for being a part of our Sisters Circle of Love. At this time, we will have our welcome by Sister Deborah Henry, who is the Women's Ministries Director of the Caribbean Union.
Hello, everyone. It is my distinct pleasure and privilege to wholeheartedly welcome each one of you this afternoon to this eminent event. Far too often, the person who braves the mud and the water to retrieve a priceless jewel is left in the shadows, while that jewel is displayed. But today, my sisters, I am delighted to know that we have gathered together to turn things around, amen? We have gathered to celebrate the courageous women who have forged ahead despite the difficulties and brought forth priceless treasure, which has enriched our lives and that of thousands around the world. And your presence, my sisters, on this platform this afternoon is an indication of your appreciation for their invaluable contribution over the years. So once again, I say a hearty welcome. It was Serena Williams, a celebrated legendary figure, world-renowned figure, has said that we are strongest when we cheer each other on. So as you cheer for our sisters today, remember that by so doing, you are celebrating your own strength. So once again, a wholehearted welcome to you. Enjoy every minute of it.
Thank you so much, Sister Debbie, for that wonderful word of welcome to our sisters. At this time, we'll have prayer by Chaplain Kenita Spencer.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kenita, as Dr. Janice has stated, and I just want to say it's a pleasure to be fellowshipping and worshiping with you. Let us pray. Gracious God, Abba Father, we come before you with hearts welling up with joy, and maybe even hearts that are wounded, hearts that are concerned, hearts that are worried. But we are here, God, and we just ask that you provide what it is that we need in this moment. As we celebrate each other, God, we are celebrating you as creator, you who created us, oh God, fearfully and wonderfully. You who created us, none of us are mistakes, God. You marvelous are your works. So God, we ask that you continue to be in our midst. And God, I just pray that we will leave this place better than we came, this virtual space. We surrender our lives to you and we give you permission, God, to move and do. God, use our hands, our feet, our hearts for your service. And God, continue to draw us ever closer to you and to each other. God, I know that what we're doing here is just a glimpse of what you will do in the future. Lord, when we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing with my sister it will be. And I thank you, God, that you continue to draw us back to that vision, the original design, the original plan. So God, we wait and we worship and we celebrate in expectation. We pray this in your powerful and your precious name. Amen. Amen.
Okay, at this time, I just want to tell you a little bit about Women's History Month. Women's History Month and national recognition of the roles of women started in 1978 when a group of women belonging to the task force of Sonora, California, commissioned this celebration. It was a one-week celebration. And that celebration coincided with Women's Day, March 8. The movement spread across the country, and pretty soon, many communities were celebrating Women's History Week. So in 1980, a consortium of women got together with some historians and they petitioned the federal government to recognize Women's History Week. And that was the time when President Jimmy Carter served as president. So on March 8, 1980, this was inaugurated as a week of celebration for women. And this is what President Carter said in his proclamation. It is time for us to celebrate the achievements, leadership, courage, strength, and love of the women who built this America. Many of the men who contributed to building up this country, they are well known, but our women are not. It is time for us to change that. So this recognition came full circle in 1987 when the Congress instituted not Women's History Week, but Women's History Month. This year, the theme for the month is Women Providing Healing, Promoting Hope. We trust that as you celebrate with us today, that you will feel a sense of inclusion. You will feel a sense of being celebrated for your contribution to your home, to your community, and the larger world. You would also feel a sense of gratitude to God for what he has been able to accomplish through you. So this time is for you. And because we want this experience to be interactive, we're going to ask you to go to the chat. And we would like you to identify one woman that has made a significant impact on your life. And then you'll give us one little sentence or two on why you find or you determine that this person has made that tremendous impact on your life. So the live chat is open now. So go to the chat because later we will be talking a little more on what you wrote, who the person is that you feel that has made that indelible impression on your life and why. So this is your time. You can start going to the chat. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to present to you Dr. Shirley Magaro, and she will do for us a poem. You are muted, Dr. Shirley. You're muted. You need to unmute yourself. You're still muted, Dr. Charles. You're still muted. We need to have you on mute. Just let's give Dr. Shirley a minute to unmute so that we can hear her. Thank you very much.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It is such a pleasure, such a joy to be with you at this time. Okay. The poem I'm going to present is entitled Woman, wonderful word, woman. And it is composed by me along with my husband, Roy, just for this specific event. Okay, we're going to begin. God made man in his own image, after which his divine expertise soared from the hands of God. Yes, he strode in feminine carriage, a graceful masterpiece to be adored. What is that masterpiece to be adored? Woman, a brilliant and awesome human being, created by God to be able to do just about anything. A wife for man with instinctive ethereal charm, exuding droplets of God's heavenly balm. God made her to be a benevolent mother, to succor and to nurture the human offspring through succeeding generations without falter. She has stuck to this mission. What a rich blessing.
Amen.
A mother, a wife, a sister, a friend, and other affiliations. And by smashing the glass ceiling in the world of works, she stands by her male counterparts with stellar devotion. She, having invaded all the professions, sometimes without the perks. Women blanket the field of education in the arts and in the sciences, and in the areas of food and health and the medical branches. Business women, entrepreneurs, and the CEOs of industry. And don't forget, she is now a novel fixture in church affairs, even clerical, even clergy, sorry. Woman, God's daughter, what a blessing to this world. Like sunbeams, raindrops, and perfumed flowers that bloom. God, in created woman, his masterpiece, he did unfurl. And you think that is all? And more ornate woman. Okay, I made a blunder there. In creating woman, his masterpiece, he did unfurl. And if you think that is great, and a more ornate woman with immortality, oh dear, may Jesus come soon. Yeah, I'm so
Amen.
sorry. This week, in the last few days, I wasn't feeling very well.
Thank you very much, Sister Shirley. We appreciate that poem. Let's put our hands together for Sister Shirley. Wonderful job. Great job.
Thank you.
Appreciate.
Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Amen. 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 The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Amen. 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 May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and your children, and their children. May his presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you. He is with you in the morning, in the evening, in your coming, in your going, in your weeping and rejoicing. He is for you. He is for you. May his presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you. He is with you in the morning, in the evening, in your coming, in your going, in your weeping and rejoicing. He is for you. He is for you. Amen. 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 The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace.
Okay, my sisters. Now we want to take you on a journey. A journey as we take some snapshots of a few women who made a difference. We're going to go all the way back to Bible times, and then we are going to fast forward to the present. And the first woman of the Bible that we are going to explore is Deborah. She is known as one of the most influential women of the Bible. She was a prophetess, a judge. She was also a warrior. She heard God's voice, and as God communicated with her, she communicated with the people. And the thing that was so outstanding about Deborah, when she was asked to make judgment on a matter, She consulted God first. So what can we learn from this sister? We can learn spiritual fortitude. We can learn the power of prayer. We can also learn courage and diligence, impartiality, strong leadership, and a woman of integrity. I give you Deborah.
Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, now that Ehud was dead. So the Lord sold them into the hands of Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. Sisera, the commander of his army, was based in Harosheth Hagoyim. Because he had 900 chariots fitted with iron, and had cruelly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years, they cried to the Lord for help. Now Deborah, a prophet, the wife of Lapidoth, was leading Israel at that time. She held court under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. And the Israelites went up to her to have their disputes decided. She sent for Barak, son of Abinoam, from Kedesh in Naphtali, and said to him, "The Lord, the God of Israel, commands you, go, take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun, and lead them up to Mount Tabor. I will lead Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his troops, to the Kishon River, and give him into your hands." Barak said to her, "If you go with me, I will go. But if you don't go with me, I won't go." "Certainly I will go with you," said Deborah. "But because of the course you are taking, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman." So Deborah went with Barak to Kedesh. There Barak summoned Zebulun and Naphtali, and 10,000 men went up under his command. Deborah also went up with him. Now Heber the Kenite had left the other Kenites, the descendants of Hobab, Moses' brother-in-law, and pitched his tent by the great tree in Zaanannim near Kedesh. When they told Sisera that Barak son of Abinoam had gone up to Mount Tabor, Sisera summoned from Harosheth Hagoyim to the Kishon River all his men and his 900 chariots fitted with iron. Then Deborah said to Barak, "Go, this is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has not the Lord gone ahead of you?" So Barak went down Mount Tabor, with 10,000 men following him. At Barak's advance, the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and army by the sword, and Sisera got down from his chariot and fled on foot. Barak pursued the chariots and army as far as Harosheth Hagoyim, and all Sisera's troops fell by the sword. Not a man was left. Sisera, meanwhile, fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, because there was an alliance between Jabin, king of Hazor, and the family of Heber the Kenite. Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Come, my lord, come right in. Don't be afraid." So he entered her tent, and she covered him with a blanket. "I'm thirsty," he said. "Please give me some water." She opened a skin of milk, gave him a drink, and covered him up. "Stand in the doorway of the tent," he told her. "If someone comes by and asks you, 'Is anyone in there?' say no." But Jael, Heber's wife, picked up a tent peg and a hammer and went quietly to him while he lay fast asleep, exhausted. She drove the peg through his temple into the ground, and he died. Just then Barak came by in pursuit of Sisera, and Jael went out to meet him. "Come," she said, "I will show you the man you're looking for." So he went in with her, and there lay Sisera with a tent peg through his temple, dead. On that day God subdued Jabin, king of Canaan, before the Israelites, and the hand of the Israelites pressed harder and harder against Jabin, king of Canaan, until they destroyed him.
Esther. Esther was a Jewish woman who became queen. As a matter of fact, she was enslaved. She was an orphan raised by Mordecai. She's recognized as a prophetess and a heroine because she saved the Jewish people from destruction. She did so by influencing the king. She was a woman of courage, unswerving faith, moral character, and a deep love for her people. I present to you Esther.
King Ahasuerus was the king of Persia. Many years earlier, when Cyrus was king, he sent some of God's people back to Judah to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. Some of God's people stayed in Persia. God's people were called Jews because they were from Judah. The king of Persia chose Esther to be his queen. Esther didn't tell the king that she was a Jew. One day, Mordecai heard that Haman, an important leader who worked for the king, was planning to kill all the Jews. Mordecai was upset. He was a Jew. He didn't want all the people he loved to be killed. Mordecai and all the Jews cried. Esther didn't know what was wrong. She sent a messenger to ask Mordecai why all the Jews were upset. Mordecai told Esther about Haman's evil plan. "You have to do something," Mordecai said. "Ask the king to stop Haman. Ask him to save the Jewish people." Esther sent a message back to Mordecai. "No one can approach the king unless the king calls for that person first," Esther said. "The punishment is death. Unless the king holds out his scepter, then you may live." "You're a Jew," Mordecai said. "If you don't stop Haman, he will kill you too. Maybe this is why you are the queen. Maybe God put Esther in the palace to save her people." Esther asked Mordecai and the Jews to fast for 3 days. Then Esther would go to the king, even if it meant she might die. On the 3rd day, Esther went to the king. He saw Esther and held out his golden scepter. "What is it, Queen Esther?" the king asked. "What do you want to ask me? I'll give you anything, up to half of my kingdom." Esther said, "Would you and Haman come to a feast today?" So Haman and the king went to Esther's feast. After eating, the king said, "What do you want, Queen Esther? I'll give you anything, up to half of my kingdom." "Come to my feast tomorrow," Esther said. The king agreed. The next day, Haman and the king went to Esther's feast. After eating, the king said, "What do you want, Queen Esther? I'll give you anything, up to half my kingdom." Esther spoke up. "There is a plan to kill me and my people." The king replied, "Who is responsible for this plan?" "This evil enemy, Haman," Esther said. The king was angry. He punished Haman and made a law to keep the Jewish people safe from their enemies. God was in control over Haman's evil plan to destroy the Jews. Like Haman, Satan wants to ruin God's plan and destroy believers. Satan thought he had won when Jesus died on the cross, but God raised Jesus from the dead and defeated Satan once and for all. All who believe in Jesus are rescued from sin and death.
So those are our biblical biopics, Deborah and Esther. Fast forward to the time of slavery. One of the renowned characters during the time of slavery is Harriet Tubman. She was born a slave. When she was old enough, she escaped from slavery and then helped others to do the same. She is credited as the conductor of the Underground Railroad. She led her passengers to safety. She is also known as a great organizer. What can we learn from her? We can learn tenacity, courage, resilience, and great organizational skills. Here is Harriet Tubman.
As one of the most well-known conductors of the Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman rescued more than 300 slaves over the span of 11 years.
Harriet Tubman was one of the most remarkable women in American history.
Born a slave in the early 1820s, Araminta Ross changed her name to Harriet Tubman after marrying a free black man named John Tubman around 1844.
As a slave, Harriet Tubman was repeatedly whipped. She also later was hit by a lead weight mistakenly, but that lead weight caused her to experience narcolepsy for the rest of her life.
Fearing that she would be sold away from her family in 1849, Tubman fled to Philadelphia using an informal but well-organized network known as the Underground Railroad.
She felt that she would be sold away because she was viewed as a sickly person. She and two of her brothers ran away, and the brothers decided they would return to the plantation. And she, instead of abandoning them, turned around, went back with them to the plantation, and then turned around and escaped a second time by herself.
Using her own money, Tubman made separate journeys to rescue her sister and brother. And in 1851, Tubman guided a group of 11 fugitives north, earning her the nickname Moses.
Harriet Tubman was called the Moses of her people, largely because she was so successful in leading slaves out of slavery, out of the South, into the North, which symbolically is known as the Promised Land. Moses, the figure from the Bible, leading his chosen people, Tubman took on that kind of mythic quality.
In 1858, Tubman assisted abolitionist John Brown in recruiting men for the raid on Harper's Ferry. During the Civil War, Tubman became a Union Army scout, a nurse, and led an armed expedition to liberate more than 700 slaves.
Harriet Tubman was an incredibly brave African-American woman. She sacrificed her own life, and she freed probably over 1,000 people. And she said she could have freed a lot more if they had known they actually were slaves.
Although Tubman was widely well-respected during her lifetime, she was impoverished and died of pneumonia in 1913. Tubman was buried with military honors and was later named an American hero by President Barack Obama.
Harriet Tubman is one of the amazing women in history. She not only brought these slaves out, but she never lost a life.
Yes, that is Harriet Tubman. Have you ever heard of the 5 revolutionary women of the Caribbean? They are Queen Nanny of Jamaica, the Morello Solitude of Guadeloupe, Claudia Jones of Trinidad, Elma Francois, born in St. Vincent and later migrated to Trinidad, and Celia Sanchez of Cuba. You will learn what these brave, resilient, phenomenal women did.
When we think of the people who shaped this region, we often think of the heads of states, presidents, prime ministers, those kinds of people. But a lot of changes came from people not at the forefront of society. They came from the people on the ground, organizing and unionizing the working class. Over the centuries, history has systematically suppressed marginalized people's voices and buried their accomplishments in obscurity. Within those groups, the stories of women are even harder to track down. There seems to be a gap in the history of radical women in the Caribbean. While it was very easy for me to find multiple articles and papers written on some of my favorite Caribbean revolutionary men, it was hard to find information on more than a select few great Caribbean women of the past. And that's when I realized how important today's video would be. This week, we're going to look at 5 Caribbean women who fought for social, economic, and political change, and shaped the Caribbean that we live in today. First up, Queen Nanny. According to legend, Queen Nanny was born in what is today Ghana, of the Ashanti people. There are 2 versions of her story, one where she came to Jamaica as a free woman of royal blood, and in the other she came as a slave but then escaped by jumping off the ship while it was still docked offshore. Whichever is true, it is maintained that she was always free in Jamaica. She fled to the mountains and settled with other Maroons on a ridge high above the planter settlements. By 1720, she headed a large community made up of free and runaway slaves. This settlement was eventually named Nanny Town. Queen Nanny organized and led her people in extended fight against English subjugation and enslavement, often raiding plantations for weapons, burning the plantations, and leading free slaves to join them in the mountains. During a period of 30 years, she was credited with freeing more than 1,000 slaves. Her Maroons were innovators in guerrilla warfare. They used surprise, the knowledge of their terrain, and cleverly chosen positions to their advantage in fights against the British. Nanny's troops were so proficient at disguising their location that the British soldiers circulated tales of trees in the forest becoming alive and cutting one's head off. To heighten the enemy's fear, Nanny's forces never killed all of the attacking force. She would always allow a remnant to live to return to base and relay the story and horror of the encounter. Nanny's life and accomplishments have been recognized by the government of Jamaica, and she has been honored as a national hero and awarded the title of Right Excellent. Currently, there are only 7 such national heroes, and Nanny is the only woman. Next, we have La Mulatresse Solitude, or the Mulatto Solitude. Though very little is known of her, the Mulatto Solitude remains an important anti-slavery figure in Guadeloupe. She was born on the island of Guadeloupe around 1772. Her mother was an enslaved woman from Africa, and her father was a sailor who raped her mother at sea when she was transported from Africa to the West Indies. Because she was noted to have pale skin and pale eyes, she was given domestic work rather than being forced to work in the fields. She saw the abolition of slavery in 1794 and joined a Maroon community in Guadeloupe. In 1802, when Napoleon Bonaparte enacted a law reinstating slavery in the French colonies, the Mulatto Solitude, a few months pregnant, joined the fight for freedom. After 18 days of unequal combat between more than 4,000 soldiers on the French side and 1,000 regular soldiers on the side of the rebels were defeated. She survived the battle but was imprisoned by the French. Because she was pregnant at the time of her imprisonment, she was not to be hanged until November 29th of the same year, 1 day after giving birth. The Mulatto Solitude symbolizes the Caribbean woman and mothers who fought to protect the ideals of equality and freedom in the context of slavery. Third, we have Claudia Jones. Claudia Jones was a Caribbean revolutionary intellectual and community organizer who combined Marxist-Leninism, decolonization, anti-imperialism, and anti-sexist politics to make sense of the social and political situation of her day. Jones was born in 1915 in Port of Spain, Trinidad. Jones moved to the US as a child, from where she was later exiled for her communist beliefs after serving 9 months in prison. Jones moved to the UK in 1955 and was a part of a larger movement of black writers and artists who aimed to empower black diaspora through cultural education and representation. Following the Notting Hill riots, where gangs of white residents attacked the homes of their West Indian neighbors, Claudia sought to wash the taste of Notting Hill out of our mouths. Carnival and its bright celebration of black freedom in the Caribbean was a perfect way to heal, and Claudia organized the first Caribbean Carnival in Notting Hill, paving the way for what is the largest street festival in Europe today. Jones's Carnival was mainly celebrated by West Indians and became a yearly festivity until her death in 1964. Although considered a female political and intellectual equivalent of CLR James, the exclusion of her insights and analysis from historical discussion has set back the urgent theorizing of questions concerning women in general and black women in first and third world countries. Elma Francois was a domestic worker and labor organizer, and has been described as one of the most vociferous Afrocentric activists in the history of Trinidad and Tobago and in the Caribbean region. Francois was born in St. Vincent and migrated to Trinidad and Tobago as a worker in 1919, where she joined the Trinidad Working Men's Association. Her militancy, grounded in Garveyite consciousness and working class politics, immediately put her at odds with the Cipriani leadership of the TWA. Later, Elma Francois founded the Negro Welfare Cultural and Social Association, a Marxist-oriented labor organization that sought the empowerment of primarily Negro people, but recruited non-Afro members as well. What made this organization different from many of the other organizations in the Caribbean at the time was Elma Francois' insistence that there should be no sex separation in the executive structure of the NWCSA, unlike the other organizations of the time, which had a women's arm/auxiliary, instead of gender equality in the leadership. Elma Francois was the first woman in the history of Trinidad and Tobago tried for sedition in 1938. She did not hire a lawyer but defended herself. According to Rhoda Reddock, when asked by the prosecutor why she was stirring disaffection amongst the subjects of Her Majesty, she replied, "I don't know that my speeches create disaffection. I know that my speeches create a fire in the minds of people so as to change the conditions which now exist." In 1987, 23 years after her death, she was posthumously declared a National Heroine of Trinidad and Tobago. Last, we have Celia Sanchez. Most people know Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, but fewer people have heard of Celia Sanchez, the woman at the heart of the Cuban Revolution and has been rumored to be the main decision maker. After the March 10, 1952 coup, Celia joined the struggle against the Batista government. She was a founder of the 26th of July movement, leader of combat squads throughout the revolution, controlled group resources, and even made the arrangements for the Granma landing, which transported 82 fighters from Mexico to Cuba in order to overthrow Batista. After the victory of the revolution, she launched numerous projects that enriched the lives of many Cubans, from parks to literacy programs to helping develop the Cohiba cigar brand. Since her death, Celia Sanchez has been virtually canonized by Cuba as the woman who most embodies its revolutionary ideals, with countless hospitals and schools named after her. In a speech at the dedication of a hospital to Celia Sanchez, Castro stated, "I truly believe that this is the best form of tribute to pay to someone who dedicated herself to duty, without resting for a moment, without forgetting one single detail, and I believe sincerely that this is the most heartfelt, profound, and revolutionary homage one can give to a compatriot who gave her life for the revolution." There are many other women who left a lasting impact on the Caribbean. These are just a few to get the conversation started. If you like this more listicle style video, let me know.
Now let's fast forward. Did you know that one of the premier scientists in NASA was an African-American sister by the name of Katherine Johnson? She was a mathematician who did a lot of orbital mechanics in calculating the precision at where these spaceships would orbit. She was so renowned that President Barack Obama awarded her the Medal of Freedom. She died in 2020 at the age of 101 years old. Here is Katherine Johnson.
You want my honest answer? I think they're crazy. I was excited. It was something new. Always like something new. But give us credit to everybody who helped. I didn't do anything alone but try to go to the root of the question and succeeded there. Do your best, but like it. Like what you're doing, then you will do your best. If you don't like it, shame on you. Well, now, if they just did the hard work that I did, which was my job, I did it every day. I never missed a day. Never stayed home playing stick and stuff. But my problem was to answer questions. And I did that to the best of my ability at all times, correct or incorrect. But that's my theory. Do your best all the time. I'll be exceedingly honored and greatly honored. But you know, math is the same. If I gave you that answer last year, it's the same now today. But the main thing is I liked what I was doing. I liked work. I liked the stars and the stories we were telling. And it was a joy to contribute to the literature that was going to be coming out. But little did I think it would go this far.
So that's Katherine Johnson. Let us fast forward. to just recently. We never imagined that it would happen in our lifetime, but we saw with our very own eyes that Kamala Harris became the first female vice president of African and Indian descent of the vice president of the United States of America. She has a very interesting story that would inspire us as women.
Kamala Harris was born in Oakland, California in October 1964. The daughter of immigrants, her dad from Jamaica, her mother from India. It was her mother who she credits for her determination.
Our mother was fierce in her belief that you will be judged based on your actions, not your words. Our mother also, you know, she was all of 5 feet tall. But if you ever met her, you would have probably thought she was 7 to 10 feet tall.
Growing up with her younger sister Maya, Harris was bused across Berkeley, California for school in the 1960s. She graduated from Howard University and the University of California. And at 55, she's no stranger to making history. She was the first black woman to be elected district attorney in San Francisco and the first woman to serve as California's attorney general.
Take this obligation seriously.
She became a senator in 2016, known for her prosecutorial style at Senate hearings. Today, she's also the first black woman, the first Asian American woman on a presidential ticket.
So that's Kamala Harris. Now the question is, have you ever visited New York City and wondered to yourself, who were the engineers and the architect behind massive buildings like the World Trade Center and JFK Airport and other, renowned buildings? Well, I need to let you know, you don't need to guess anymore. This woman is the CEO of one of the largest and most significant minority companies in the United States, Machesek and Machesek. And she said that this started way back in slavery when her great-great-grandfather learned his skill from a slave owner. And later on, he passed on that knowledge to her grandfather and her grandfather to her father and to the generations to now. They are making things happen.
Firm McKissack & McKissack, the oldest black-owned and female-run construction company in the United States.
I started this journey 30 years ago. 30 years ago. And to think about the iconic projects that we've had the opportunity to work on, it's a blessing.
Cheryl McKissick and her team at McKissick & McKissick have been blessing New York City with much of the infrastructure New Yorkers use every day.
We are the independent engineer for the MTA, so we oversee their capital program. The first program that we oversaw was $32 billion. The one we're doing now is $54 billion. It includes East Side Access, 2nd Avenue Subway.
When we look at buildings in New York, we can point to which ones that McKissick & McKissick did.
If you want to talk about buildings, we can talk about Medgar Evers College. Medgar Evers built 2 brand new buildings, a social services building. We're currently building Coney Island Hospital. And Harlem Hospital is one of my favorites because we had to take murals off of the cinder block walls and restore them. And they hang in the entrance of Harlem Hospital right now. But then the architect came up with the bright idea to mimic those same murals on the outside of the glass of the hospital. So the hospital is beautiful.
McKissick and her team brought beauty to LaGuardia Airport, once maligned by President, then Vice President Joe Biden.
If I took you in blindfold and took you to LaGuardia Airport in New York, you must think I must be in some third world country.
We've had the opportunity to participate on the central terminal at LaGuardia and continue to work with Delta, which is Terminal B and C, which is another, $4 or $5 billion undertaking.
It's a long way from McKissick and McKissick's origins. 5 generations of McKissicks ago, founded by a former slave.
How unheard of that is, even within a white generational family, let alone a black generational family, that started with a man named Moses.
Moses McKissick I came to this country in 1790, and he was brought here by a slave master named William McKissick. That's why we have the McKissick name, like most slaves. He was taught the trade of making bricks, and eventually, at some point, he gained his freedom. And we know that because he gave 365,000 bricks to the Cheers family in Nashville, Tennessee, and they built their mansion. So what was he like? I often imagine that. I think about how do you overcome not just bigotry, but slavery.
Yeah. Do you ever think about if he's looking down at you at this point, what he would think?
I think about the fact that his DNA and his blood runs through me. And I believe that because I'm a product of my parents, they're a product of their parents, and so forth and so on. So I believe more than he's just looking down on me, I feel like he's in me, that I can stand on the accomplishments of my ancestors.
Cheryl took me on a tour of her great accomplishment, a reimagined LaGuardia Airport.
You must have a lot of pride. Really, how can you not?
It's very humbling to be a part of so many iconic projects in New York. Being part of the footprint of New York City as a black female-owned business is not only important for McKissick, but I think it's important for all of New York.
And how many international people are coming through these airports, what that means?
Well, it gives us a better face as a country, first of all. Joe Biden was not kidding when he said it looked third world, because it did. And now you look at it, it's Class A space. It's second to none. And that's what New York should be. We have the Central Terminal here. We have the Delta Terminal
which
right
you're
next
still
door,
working on.
which we're still working on next door. And then we have JFK.
Okay, so you have it. Did you know that one of the main scientists responsible for the COVID-19 vaccine was also a woman? And we are almost to the end. So you will hear a little bit about her story, and then finally our own Navy Lieutenant Commander Adrienne Townsend Benton. She would be the last.
According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, more than 6.5 million Americans have now received their first dose of the vaccine against the coronavirus. It's a number that will be growing every day, though it's well behind what public health experts had been hoping to see. Along with manufacturing and distribution issues, public health officials are concerned about millions of Americans who are resistant to taking the vaccine. To address that, some of those officials are shining a light not just on the science behind the shots, but on the scientists who help bring the vaccines to fruition. When the president paid a visit to the National Institutes of Health last March, the leads at the Vaccine Research Center explained their life-saving mission.
Why shake proteins that will bind?
The key to it, a 34-year-old doctor named Kizzmekia Corbett.
I was just there telling the task force about the work that we've been doing.
2 weeks later, Dr. Corbett's team began the first stage of clinical trials.
We have taken a lot of the knowledge that we have gained over the last 6 years and applied it to a fairly revolutionary vaccine platform in collaboration with Moderna.
That vaccine rolled out within 10 months.
The vaccine teaches the body how to fend off a virus because it teaches the body how to look for the virus. By basically just showing the body the spike protein of the virus, the body then says, oh, we've seen this protein before. Let's go fight against it. That's how it works.
For a lot of people, seeing you as the person who is part of this process, there's a trust factor.
To be honest, I didn't realize the level of impact that my visibility might have. I do my work because I love my work.
Dr. Corbett's interest in science began at an early age, but one opportunity made a key difference. She attended the University of Maryland, Baltimore County as a Meyerhoff Scholar, an aggressive program that mentors minorities and women in science. Graduates include Surgeon General Jerome Adams.
Was she someone who's going to make it all along?
She was definitely going to make it in life.
Dr. Freeman Hrabowski has been president there for nearly 30 years.
She had strong science background, but she also was very comfortable with people. We need more scientists who can connect to people. She could do that when she was 17 easily. What we do at UMBC is to support students of color, Black, but also students in general, to make sure they make it in science.
Only 18% of all students graduate with a STEM degree, according to the National Center for Education Statistics. Around 2% are Black.
It's important for those people to see people looking like them, like themselves, who can be involved. If it's about women or if it's about Blacks, because it shows that you've got people who understand what you've gone through.
Dr. Corbett and I have worked together for maybe 15 or 16 years, since she was in high school.
Dr. Barney Graham's not only Corbett's mentor, he's her boss.
When you recognize somebody has special qualities, you need to do things that can keep those other things out of the way and avoid some of the dismissiveness that often happens, not only to minority people, but to women.
And historically, that bias strikes not just professionals in the field, but those that they serve.
Well, let's talk about the impediments to the trust.
I grew up in Birmingham. All of my life, I was hearing about the Tuskegee study.
The federally sanctioned Tuskegee experiment sought to examine the long-term effects of syphilis by letting infected Black men go untreated with no regard to the suffering it caused.
How do you feel about being used as a guinea pig?
Now, finally, our own Adrian Benson, Navy Lieutenant Commander Adrian Towson Benson.
Lieutenant Commander Adrian Benton started. Lieutenant Commander Adrian Benton started in the classroom.
Initially, I was an elementary school teacher, taught 7th and 8th grade and 1st and 2nd grade. In the midst of working on my master's in curriculum and instruction, I began to realize that there was a passion inside me that was yet unfulfilled.
And that led the Queens, New York native to ministry.
And as I just surveyed my life, I saw that when it came to doing ministry, that's where I really was passionate. So I left teaching and went into the seminary. Personally, joining the Navy as a chaplain, I had to exactly walk in the shoes of the other personnel in terms of learning how to walk and resolve conflict within yourself and externally, learning how to not allow your fears to get the best of you.
And years later, Chaplain Benton knows she made the right choice.
Throughout the 13 years, I have had the opportunity to work specifically with our women, our female service members, and at various duty stations, we have been able to develop and create committees, symposiums, leadership opportunities for women, and that has been, I believe, my greatest accomplishment to date.
She served incoming sailors, thousands of students, staff, and the Marine community around the globe. Now serving as the senior chaplain at the Naval Support Activity Charleston.
Is it ever challenging? Yes, sometimes it's challenging because you really are walking this journey and you're taking time to meet people where they're at, right? That takes patience, that takes time, that takes sensitivity, empathy.
But those challenges have helped decorate her in Navy and Marine Corps medals. And now there's an award created in her name that's given to the Marine who exhibits resilience. just like her.
There's a brotherhood, a sisterhood that comes in this environment that you won't be able to get anywhere else. And again, I am absolutely honored to serve our country and to serve our community in this capacity.
So here you have it. We wanted to provide a snapshot, an overview of these women that are changing the world. Women in Bible times, and fast forward to our time, they are making a significant difference. We hope that as you listen to those various biopics, you were able to see yourself in these sisters.
Once in a while, when I am feeling homesick, I try to do my music and get some laughter. Put on some clothes and then I fix up my hair as if I'm going somewhere. Sooner or later, still I am lonely, not getting better and feeling empty. Don't know the answer. Now I am wondering what next should I try as a teardrop falls from my eye. Sometimes I wake up and my day is so full, thinking of work and of school and just trouble. Reluctantly I get myself off the bed, I wash my hands and my head and read my Bible. Lo, I am with you, will never leave you, not now or ever. Sweet precious promises from Jesus my Lord, you can find them all in His Word. New every morning, He sends a blessing. Oh, oh. Sweet precious promises from Jesus my Lord, you can find them all in His Word. My yoke is easy and my burdens even lighter. Sweet precious promises from Jesus my Lord, you can find them all in His Word. Soon I am coming to take you with me. Oh, sweet precious promises from Jesus my Lord, you can find them all in His Word. Oh, how I love you, I really miss you. Oh, sweet precious promises from Jesus my Lord, you can find them all in His Word. Oh, hallelujah, what a Savior. Oh, sweet precious promises from Jesus my Lord, you can find them all in His Word. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Sweet promises, oh, sweet precious
Thank you, Lyndon Assay. Thank you for that beautiful musical rendition. I'm sure that our lives, we were all blessed by that rendition. At this time, we're halfway there, guys. So stay with us. Don't get too tired. It's not too late to share the link and invite others to come and enjoy all that you've been enjoying thus far. And now at this time, we're going to have a poem done for us by Dr. Yvonne Peters, and that poem will be done live. Dr. Peters.
Dr. Peters, please unmute.
This poem, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. This poem is entitled Hope. It was written in 1984. It was inspired by a colleague at the Borough of Manhattan Community College. I must confess that I don't normally memorize my poems, but this one I made a special effort to memorize. And it begins, I see hope in each awakening sun. As the day rises, its duty to perform. Blossoming flowers lift expectant faces as the hope in millions is born. I dream hope in the awakening consciousness of men born outside minorities, bringing to life new awareness of injustice and its atrocities. I dream hope in the gap-toothed smile of an infant nestling in its mother's arms, chuckling, gurgling, filled with life, unaware of a world created by strife. I think hope in the awakened consciousness of men born outside minorities. I feel hope, though a tiny ray, that mankind can coexist, enjoying Earth's bounties and blessings, proclaiming the birth of a brand new day.
Thank you, Dr. Peters. Thank you so much. Let's put our hands together, guys. Let's put our hands together. At least you can see you clapping on screen, even though our mics are muted at this point. Thank you so much, Dr. Peters. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Our next item, or our next speaker, I'll be introducing to you in the form of Pastor Carolyn Brandon. Pastor Brandon was born in Essequibo, that's here in Guyana, to Carl and Sybil Brandon, and spent her childhood years in that same village and study in Essequibo. Later on, as she became an adult, and she eventually got baptized, and after becoming an adult, she attended the Cyril Potter College of Education. That's a teacher's training college here in Guyana. Later on, she went on to further her studies at the University of Guyana, where she pursued a degree in social work. After completing her studies at the University of Guyana, she attended the University of the Southern Caribbean in Trinidad and graduated with honors with a Bachelor of Arts degree in theology, with emphasis on pastoral ministry. Pastor Brandon currently pursues a Master of Arts degree in pastoral theology. Once she would have completed her studies at USC and graduated with her degree, Pastor Brandon joined the Guyana Conference and was the first female district pastor of the Guyana Conference. That's remarkable, phenomenal, and also historical. In 2018, Pastor Brandon was elected to serve as Women's, Children's, and Adolescents Ministries Director of the Guyana Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. One of her major accomplishments as director was pioneering the publishing of the first women's devotional book in the Guyana Conference, titled Messages of Hope. That was last year. In 2021, Pastor Brandon was commissioned to the gospel ministry. Her spiritual life's motto is predicated on Luke chapter 4, verse 18, and it says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He had sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives and the recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised." Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you Pastor Carolyn Brandon. Let's put our hands together as we make her feel welcomed.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. What an awesome privilege to be amongst you phenomenal women. We give God praise and thanks for each and every one of you. And this afternoon, we want to salute you. I must thank Dr. McLean for the collaboration. And I know that we have been immensely blessed and inspired this afternoon. I have a mere 5 minutes. Sister Yasmin, thank you for your words of introduction. You did that so well. I give God praise and thanks for this awesome privilege of just sharing with you a brief exhortation. And my summation to you this afternoon, my words of encouragement to you this afternoon is simply this. This is a cap I want to put on our presentation. Woman, know your worth. Woman, know your worth. Notice that it's in individual. I'm speaking to each of you as individuals. And I just want to share with you from the book of Mark, Mark chapter 14 and verse 9. Mark chapter 14 and verse 9. It says, "Verily I say unto you," Jesus speaking, "wheresoever this gospel shall be preached throughout the whole world, this also that she had done shall be spoken of for a memorial of her." I'm going to read that again. "Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached throughout the whole world, this also that she had done shall be spoken of for a memorial." You listened to the great exploits. You listened to the great exploits of the women that we sought to surmise, even as we sought to surmise their accomplishment. And Jesus specifically points out a woman. You might be thinking, "Pastor, you're speaking of worth. Why speak of this woman?" But I'm going to say to you again this afternoon, Dr. Shirley McGarrell, woman, know your worth. Our God and Heavenly Father, we give you praise and thanks for being a great and mighty God. We thank you, oh God, for the Holy Writ. And we pray that even as we seek to examine this woman who might have seemed nothing, this woman who might have been taught of callously, but we are thankful that with Jesus we have worth. And so speak to us even in these few moments, we pray in Jesus' name, amen. Woman, know your worth. You know the story. You've heard it spoken of. As a matter of fact, the only place in the Bible, Dr. Roy McGarrell, where a memorial is spoken of is as it relates to this particular woman. Imagine Sister Yasmin. She came in the presence of the man. She came to Simon's house at Bethany. The Bible lets us know that this woman might have had a sordid past. But even as I share this exhortation this afternoon, may I tell you that your past designation does not have to affect your future accomplishment. Come on, somebody. May I tell you this afternoon that your past vocation does not determine your destination. May I tell you that the labels that they have placed upon you doesn't have to determine where you are heading or your accomplishments. I looked at this woman. The Bible lets us know that she sneaks into Simon the leper's house. May I tell some woman that this afternoon, you just need to show up. I would often dialogue with Sister Chan. I think she's on the platform. And Sister Chan said to me, Carlin, I know sometimes you might feel tired. Sometimes you might not feel like it, but just show up. This woman, she showed up in the presence of the man. I would want to submit to you, my sisters, this afternoon, that you need to be present in the presence of Jesus. If you want to better realize your worth this afternoon, you need to be present constantly in the presence of Jesus. She comes into the presence of Jesus, the Bible says. She comes to Simon's house. She shows up. But may I tell you this afternoon that she didn't just show up. You see, sometimes we show up and we show up empty-handed. Is somebody hearing me this afternoon? Sometimes we show up and we just show up empty-handed. We come in a lax way. We come with no agenda. We come with no plan. But this afternoon, this woman that serves as a memorial, she showed up, and she didn't show up cheap. May I just tell you that, Sister Cooper? She didn't show up cheap. She showed up with a spikenard. She showed up with what was needed for that time. I know that good women know how to show up with what's needed. I know that good women this afternoon know how to show up with what's necessary. This woman, she comes to Simon's house. The men are there. They are looking at her. You know about her. They might have considered her unworthy. But may I tell you that when you show up in the presence of Jesus, he looks and he looks at you, and he allows for you, my sister, to be elevated. You see, when you show up and you find yourself in the presence of God, they may look down at you, but once you show up and he is present, he is willing to elevate you. I know some of you know the story. Your past might not have been the best, but you showed up in the presence of the Lord with your spikenard, with your praise, with your past, and you decided to give it all to Jesus. So this woman, she showed up and she opens her expensive perfume. The men thought that it should have been used for something else, but she knew what she brought it for, what she took it there for. She wanted to anoint the master. Is there anybody that's agreeing with me that when you show up in the presence of God, you have to empty out yourself and you have to pour your praise upon him? The Bible says that she poured it all out. You see, my sister, when you give Christ your best, when you give him your talents, when you give him your possession, he uses it and he helps for it to be used, and he blesses you exponentially. Can somebody attest this afternoon, that you showed up, you give God your little, you give God what you had, and he blessed you exponentially. The Bible says she took what She gave him her best. She poured it out. You see, the custom of the day that when one is preparing for burial, the body is anointed. The men, they sat back. I guess they were waiting for each other to do the act of washing and of anointing. But Mary, the prostitute, steps in and she does what was expected of them to do. May I tell somebody, you do not have to wait for the male folk to do it. I acknowledge that we need them. I acknowledge that we cannot do without them. God would have ordained for them to be in our lives. But my sisters, just don't show up. Just don't bring your spikenard. I would want you to perfume the place. And I know that good Christian women know how to be present in the presence of God. They know how to pour it all out. Real women know that they need to perfume the place. You see, when you perfume the places in which you find yourself, you become a memorial. She might have seemingly had no worth. And this is the part that I like. I cannot go through everything this afternoon. This is the part of I like. The men start to clamor. They start to prize the spikenard. And Jesus, knowing their thoughts and hearing their submission, he says to them, let her alone. He says to them in verse 6, let her alone. Why trouble her? My sisters, when you show up in the presence of God, when you give God your praise and your offerings, when you allow yourself to permeate and perfume the place, he is willing to fan off the enemy. He's willing to protect you, my friend. He's saying to the enemy over each of your lives this afternoon, let her alone. Let her alone. Let Sister Peters alone. Let Sister Barnwell alone. Let Dr. Darrell alone. Let Sister Rebecca alone. Let Sister Shondell alone. I would want to let you know that once you show up and you continue to lead on God's side, he's not just willing to have you in his presence, but he's ready to stand with you and for you. Let her alone. Do not trouble her. She had wrought a good work on me. I don't know who you are this afternoon, but once you allow yourself to be in the presence of God, once you're willing to pour it all out, once you're willing to give God your best, he will multiply what you have. Once you allow yourself to be in the presence of God, he's willing to protect you. My sisters, this afternoon, I would want to let you know that Mary might have had a terrible past, but when she came into the presence of God and she poured it all out, I don't know what you have this afternoon, but I would want to submit to you, give it to Jesus, because when your life is given to the one who stilled the waters, when your life is given to the King of Kings, when your life is surrendered to God, he gives you a worth. I know this afternoon that there's one woman here that's willing to become a memorial for God. I know that Sister Janice, there's one woman here who is willing to say that I'm going to give everything to God because he wants to do something magnificent through me. He wants to create a memorial in my life. I don't know about you this afternoon, but know that no matter what your past, once you come into the presence of God and you pour it all out, you're a woman of worth because he's willing to protect you. Jesus loves you. And no matter what anybody says this afternoon, you are his daughter. God bless you. And remember that you are a woman of worth. God's blessings upon you.
Amen. Amen. What a word. What a word. What a word from the Lord. Thank you, Pastor Carolyn. That was a powerful word from God. We will now have a special music by Esther Sebro.
I believe in a hill called Mount Calvary. I believe whatever the cost, and when time has surrendered and dirt is no more, I'll still cling to that old rugged cross. I believe that this life, with its great mysteries, surely someday will come to an end. Oh, but faith will conquer the darkness and the death, and will lead me at last to my friend. Now I believe that the Christ who was slain on the cross has the power to change lives today. For he has changed me completely. A new life is mine. That is why by the cross I will stay. I believe in a hill called Mount Calvary. I believe whatever the cost, and when time has surrendered and earth is no more, I'll still cling to that old rugged cross.
Amen. We want to thank Sister Esther for that wonderful rendition, The Old Rugged Cross. And right now, my dear sisters, it gives me great pleasure in presenting this wonderful sister to you. And I know this is going to be a surprise to her because I was trying my best to make sure that she wasn't aware. And so today, APC, in collaboration with the Guyana Conference of Seventh-day Adventist Women's Ministry, would like to present this first Woman of Distinction Award. And so now I will read the bio. And this is the bio of Dr. Shirley Ann McGarrell. Dr. Shirley Ann McGarrell nee Martinborough has served as a teacher, secretary, administrative assistant, professor, and administrator for more than 25 years. She holds an Associate of Art degree in Secretarial Science from Caribbean Union College in 1961. And that school is now called the University of the Southern Caribbean. Her Bachelor's of Arts degree in 1983 and a Master's of Art in English in 1985. She obtained her PhD in 2000 and her area of specialization was curriculum and instruction, with an advanced cognate in English from Andrews University in Barron Springs, Michigan. Dr. McGarrell has a long, eminent professional career that spans the geographical region of Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, and Barron Springs. She has worked in multiple positions, from being an elementary school teacher in Wismar, New Amsterdam, and an instructor and administrative assistant in Barron Spring, Michigan, to serving as a professor and departmental chair and dean, vice president, interim president of the University of Southern Caribbean in Trinidad. Dr. McGarrell was born in Vreednoop, West Bank, Demerara. She learned at a very early age to love reading, writing, and poetry. With a keen eye for observation and a heart for people, she actively participated in many activities of the church. She is married to Pastor Dr. Roy I. McGarrell, who has served the Guyana Conference with distinction and also served at the University of the Southern Caribbean. Dr. McGarrell is credited with launching Alpha Mu Gamma, the first international chapter of Sigma Theta Delta on the island of Trinidad and Tobago. She also established a writing center on the campus of USC. I can spend the entire day talking about Dr. Shirley McGarrell. She's not only a friend, I think of her as a mother, because she has given so much. She has served this church with such distinction. She is a woman of eloquence. She is a woman of style. She's a woman of great compassion. So my dear sisters, it gives me great pleasure to present this award to Dr. Shirley A. McGarrell. And this is what it reads. APC Community Services and the Women's Ministries Department of the Guyana Conference of SDA Woman of Distinction Award 2022, presented to Dr. Shirley A. McGarrell for your outstanding contribution to SDA education. And the date, March 27, 2022. So Dr. Shirley, this distinguished award will be sent to you in the mail. I know you're surprised, but it was intended to be a surprise because you are such a wonderful sister. You are such a wonderful servant of God. You've sown in the lives of so many. And for this, we thank you. Dr. McGarrell, would you like to say something? Please unmute yourself. We congratulate you. You are still muted. You're still muted. Okay, so Dr. Shirley, I succeeded in surprising you. It wasn't an easy feat.
I can talk? Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, well, this is an utter surprise. No one even hinted it to me. Not even my husband. Yeah. It blows my mind, the sun there. And I just want you to know that I heartily appreciate this initiative and this nomination, so to speak. It's awesome, awesome, awesome. And I will always remember this with great pleasure and admiration. I have never known anyone to have experienced this secret. Oh, I can't believe it's too much, too much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, may God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tremendously.
All right.
I really do appreciate the initiative.
Bless all the other women.
I pray that God will bless you, Dr. Janice, and all the other women who helped to keep this secret so beautifully from me. Yes.
Thank you so very much. Let's put our hands together for Dr. Shirley. This is our first Woman of Distinction Award. Dr. Shirley, we salute you. We applaud you. May God continue to bless you. You have been a wonderful role model for so many of us, and we thank you. God bless you.
It's tremendous. I heartily appreciate it. So may God bless you, Dr. Jan, and the whole organization.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
God bless you.
God bless.
Hey, Queen. Hey, Queen.
Hey, Queen.
Sister.
Girl, you've done it again.
You are constantly raising the bar for all of us and doing so flawlessly.
You do know that you're that girl, right?
I hope that when you wake up in the morning and look in the mirror, you see how divine you are.
Know that so many people want what you got.
You have dreams to fulfill and promises to yourself that you must keep.
I know at times you feel underappreciated and misvalued. Trust me, we've all been there.
So it's necessary that you can count on yourself.
Now, don't go seeking perfection.
Extend yourself a little grace.
Don't be afraid to celebrate the little wins as much as the big ones.
You, Miss Thang, are courageous. You are dynamic. You are principled.
So baby girl, just remember, respect is a minimum.
There's a sweet justice in knowing that the path you are on was designed for you and you alone.
Doing right by yourself never goes out of style.
Everything about you is majestic and a force to be reckoned with.
Trust me, people are paying attention.
You're special and worthy of praise. Don't shy away from it.
And you don't have to get your groove back because guess what? You never lost it.
It's also important to rest. Make sure your hustle doesn't get in the way of your health. Girl, take care of yourself.
And the next time you want to second guess yourself, don't do it.
So pause for a second right now and relax, relate, release.
You are needed, you are appreciated.
Girl, you make me so proud. And I love you.
Remember,
you are 100%
that
queen.
Oh, yes.
Awesome.
Okay, ladies, from the facial expressions, I can tell that you all enjoy that, including Dr. Shirley. I know that you all enjoy that. You're 100% that queen, okay? And so, I do, Dr. Yes, and so at this time, at this part of our program, we're coming to the end. And so we're going to go earlier in the program when we began. Dr. McLean had asked you to share in the chat about a phenomenal woman in your life and how she impacted your life along the way. And some persons shared at that time. And so at this time, we're going to look at the chat, see what you shared, and share it with others. Okay, is that okay? Because some persons would have joined after and had no idea that they were required to do that. And so a few of the ladies shared those phenomenal women in their lives who impacted their lives and how their lives were impacted. And so for the next 2 minutes or so, I'll share with you what some of the ladies said about the outstanding female in their life. And so the first, Angela said she referred to Mary Roberts, AKA Mama Roberts, that was her person. Claire Patterson said, my mother, Joyce Wolfe, she said her faith and advocacy for the undeserved, that's what impacted her the most about her outstanding woman, who was her mom. Beverly Chan said Miss Patrice LaFleur. Deborah Trotman said Genevieve White-Ned. Her faith walk with God and confidence as a woman of God. Angela Cooper went on again and she said, Mama Roberts. I don't know if she meant Mama Roberts because she had a big heart and she was the person that first exposed me to volunteerism at the early age of 7 years, at 7 years old. Chanel Blackett said, Barbara Thomas Savory and Edna Hardy were her outstanding mothers. Both of these women were mother figures to her in her former years, and she admired their strength. She said one juggled her career and family with distinction, and the other was a single mother who raised her children, all of whom are respected adults today. Dr. Merlin Isaac Emmons, she said her deceased mother, Abigail Corona Isaac, was her hero. She was my go-to person. I lost her at the tender age of 45, but not before she had stamped her godly impression upon my siblings and I. We mourn her loss. Dr. Merlin Isaac Emmons, that's from her. And Beverly Chan went on to say that Patrice LaFleur impacted her. As a matter of fact, she mentored her into becoming a successful social worker. Queen Alicia said Pastor Carolyn Brandon is her favorite is her woman of honor. Her love and passion for ministry. She's a mighty woman of prayer, a great motivator, listener, and encourager. Carolina Joseph said her mom, Mildred Marks, for her generosity. And she also said she was a virtuous woman. Rosalind Bronx said the woman who made the most indelible impression on her life was her mother, Adina Brown, more generally known as Teacher Dinah or Dina Nevis. She nurtured my growth physically, psychologically, and above all, spiritually, thanks to her. Indra said she salutes her mom, Esther Renee Perry. Joy B says her sister was the person that she saluted. And Yolanda said her mom, Sandra Feline Nideni, for bringing us up at a tender age to God, the age that taught me and my sisters all the basics of independence as an early age. She also went and spoke to her about her adopted mom, Sister Maylene Kendall, who assisted in her grooming. So Dr. McLean, those are the women who responded. I don't know if anyone else spoke after. Since I'm doing that, let me scroll through quickly. I don't want to miss anyone who spoke about the phenomenal woman and how their lives were impacted by her. But I believe that's it for now. Let me see, I'm going through. Yes. So I believe that's it for now, Dr. McLean. And
Very
so,
well.
yes. So I'll hand right back over to you in master control.
Okay, very well. Thank you very much, sisters, for sharing. At this time, we will have a spotlight, no, a special music, and after which we'll have a special spotlight. And this special music is dedicated to all of us because we are all special sisters.
Sisterhood is more powerful than we can even comprehend. It's a community of women embracing each other. It's deeper than being friends. It's an I want to see you win and I want to see you flourish. It's a girl, you better get those coins. I see you walking in your purpose. Because we don't have to be besties and we don't have to talk every day. But just know that we are reflections of each other. If you win, then I win. Another woman paving the way, another queen coming to slay. And if you're truly my sister, you'll lift me up when you pray. Because believe it or not, we're all going through something, and it's okay to not always be okay. My shoulders were built for sisterhood. Lean on them as you may. Sisters understand each other's tears more than anyone, so we should be the ones to help wipe them away. It's time to put the sister back in sisterhood, and I know all of this sounds a little cliche, but only we can give life to those words by allowing our actions to align with the words that we say. We are sisters. If I fall, I need to know that my sister is gonna help pick me back up. If I feel defeated, I need to hear my sister saying, you're gonna get through this, sis. Don't give up. If I fail, I need to be reminded that I'm still a winner. And if you see me getting chunky, lie to me, tell me I'm getting thinner. Call me slim, say, girl, you getting slimmer, cause we are sisters. If you need that push, I'm gonna be there to push you into your greatness. And on those days when you feel unworthy, I'm gonna remind you that you are absolutely amazing. And when folks try to bring up your past, I'm gonna be sure to let them know that you are a survivor. And if you ever need someone to talk to, know that you can call me and I'll help lift you higher. And I won't judge you either. However, when you're slacking, I'm gonna tell you you need to do better. Cause I refuse to sit back silently and watch my sister settle or meddle in average. I'm gonna get you right together and let you know you need to do something with all that awesome girl magic, cause we are sisters. And no, it's not always peaches and cream. We will get on each other's nerves. We will say things we don't mean. We will have disagreements, and even jealousy is a factor. We tend to subconsciously compare ourselves to one another, and that in and of itself is a sisterhood disaster. The truth is, we all have flaws and insecurities and things that we can perfect. We are all evolving works in progress and just as equally a hot mess. We all have a tendency to be petty, overly emotional, and at times a challenge to deal with. But I'll take the good with the bad because I need my sister to pray and kneel with, to overcome and heal with, to cut up and chill with, to be open and real with, to connect and build with, to empower and fulfill with, because we are sisters. And there is no competition when you sincerely embody the true definition. When you make it your mission to be the spark and be the difference, then you will see that we are all simply connected with a twister. I am not only my sister's keeper, I am my sister.
And she's royal, yeah, so royal, and I want her in my life. I never knew anyone so one of a kind.
My dear sisters who are gathered for this Sisters Circle of Love Celebration 2022, it's my signal privilege to celebrate my dear sister and a friend and a member of APC board, Miss Claire Mona Patterson, on her retirement and also for her outstanding contribution in the field of healthcare. Claire served for many years at Kings County Hospital Center, now known as Health Hospitals Kings County. She also served as Deputy Executive Director and Chief Operations Officer for NYC Health Hospitals in the Community Care Division. Claire served as the first Chief High Reliability Officer at NYC HHC from 2000, and that was in the height of the pandemic. Her role was to make sure that everything was taken care of and provide quality care in the midst of that pandemic, ensuring that the staff had all the necessary tools that they needed so that they can efficiently work towards combating this pandemic. Claire also served in the Central Brooklyn Network, Susan McKinney Nursing and Rehabilitation Center, East New York Diagnostic Treatment Center. She led and deployed and adopted Breakthrough, that is the lean transformation efforts for the network, realizing improvement in performance and achievement in both clinical as well as financial and operational goals. Claire served as Vice President for Ambulatory Care and Support Services at St. Joseph Regional Medical Center in Paterson, New Jersey. That's just to name a few. Following, she also served in an administrative capacity at Montefiore Medical Group. So Claire has served extensively in many areas. She is well qualified with a bachelor's degree in nutrition from Queens College, a master's degree in food and nutrition, and also she has credentials in administration from the School of Education, Health and Nursing, and Arts Profession from the New York University. So this dear sister of mine has done so much, and especially as she serves on the APC board as our public relations officer. Claire goes above and beyond to make sure that the image of APC is well represented out there. You're going to see a number of pictures of Claire in various activities showing her diverse contribution and her heart of love. So, my dear sister, I usually refer to her as my twin sister, but she's the younger twin. I celebrate you on this, our first Sisters Circle of Love 2022. God bless you.
She's royal, yeah, so royal, and I want her in my life.
Dear Claire, there's so many wonderful things I can say about you, but time does not permit, so I'll just share a few. Claire, see, caring, concerned, and committed. At the drop of a hat, she comes to the rescue, and she doesn't have to know you. You can put your pot on the fire. It's her heart's desire. L, loving, loyal, and luminous. She loves strong, jealous too, but nothing wrong. Her love and loyalty go hand in hand. And oh, how she lights up the place with that radiant smile. A, accomplished, articulate, and aristocratic. Check her CV and you will be in awe. How could this little woman do so much? She lets you know clearly how she feels. And she's elegant and stylish in dress and manners. I, innovative, impressive, and instinctive. Loves to introduce and try new things, and that arouses wonder and admiration. And when she gets the feeling about something, she is hardly ever wrong. Scary sometimes. R, reliable, reputable, and resourceful. You can depend on her to deliver on her word. Put your trust in her and you will not be disappointed. Has anyone ever put you in your place in a respectable way? She has. And you just name the event. She not only has the ideas, but the resources, and she's the party chief instructor. E, engaging, energetic, and exceptional. Her pleasant quality makes you feel at ease when you reach out to her. And my God, I have never seen anyone with so much energy. She keeps on going, and Lord have mercy, there is no one else like her. As old people have said, they broke the mold when they made her. She is a superior human being. Claire Jewel, phenomenal woman, precious sister, truest friend, I celebrate you. Thank you for all.
At this time, we'll have some brief remarks from Miss Marcia Gordon, if she's there, followed by Angela Cooper. If Marcia Gordon is not there, Angela, she's here.
On behalf of the board and members of the Guyana Cultural Association of New York, I am honored to be with you today. GCA of New York is pleased to add its collective voice to the plaudits given to Claire Patterson Mona. I would take much more than the time we are allowed to tell you of the worth of this phenomenal woman of GCA. For over 20 years, you've heard right, 20 years, she labored willingly, efficiently, smiling for countless hours on the road that has led to the extraordinary success that this organization has achieved. We endorse your acclamation of Claire Patterson Mona. We endorse all the praise you heap on her. We celebrate her constancy, her bravery in the face of obstacles, her loving concern for the people of Guyana, her tenacity and care. Claire, with all our love, GCA presents you with a virtual bouquet of flowers and blessings on this day. Congratulations, our sister.
Hello, hello, hello. Are you hearing me, everybody?
At this time, we'll have Angela Cooper. Yes, we can hear you.
Phenomenal woman, are you hearing me right now?
Yes, we are.
Well, listen to me. I sit down, I listen to this thing all evening. I enjoy it. I loved it. But when they put you last, there's not much more you can say. They say everything about Claire. She's phenomenal. Listen, they take every poem that I had written and I have to keep flipping here. I don't know where to go right now. But I'll tell you something that none of you would know. At H&H, we have something called I Care Values, and Claire will know that, I-C-A-R-E. So what I'm saying right now, I wish they could take all those things because somehow I think they belong to Claire. I think we could take her integrity, her compassion, her sense of accountability, and the authentic respect that she has for others and wrap that up into this excellent woman. Ah, because that's what IKEA stands for. And that is what Claire stands for. And we should give this up. We should bottle it up and give it to every, in fact, not every woman, every person on the planet. So sister, my friend, I hope Charles is close by. Just want to say congratulations on your retirement and your beginning of your new journey, because there's so much more to come, like what you're receiving right now. Let me see. Everybody wants to see it. Put Claire on. Bring her up on the screen. We need to see with those lovely flowers that you just received. Okay. And not only those flowers, Claire, pay attention, darling, pay attention. Claire. I know, you got it, you got it. We can't see it that well because of the screen that way on, but we see. Anyway, my darling, the other part of your presentation is, I'm going to read this, so please pay attention, Clay. Whereas a great state is only as great as those individuals who perform exemplary service on behalf of their communities, whether through unique achievements in professional or other endeavors, or simply through a lifetime of good citizenship. And whereas, attendant to such concern, I, New York State Senator Zelno Y. Myrie, am justly proud to honor Claire Patterson Mona for exemplary service to her community and state upon the occasion of Women's History Month. And whereas it is belief of this legislative body that when individuals such as noble aims and accomplishments are brought to our attention, it is appropriate to publicly proclaim and commend those individuals. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Zelno Myrie, New York State Senator, honor Claire Patterson Mona for exemplary service to her community and state, and upon the occasion of Women's History Month. And may it be further proclaimed that a copy of this proclamation be transmitted to Claire Patterson Mona, March 27th, 2020, Zelno Y. Myrie. So Claire, your proclamation is here and it's going to be mailed to you. Okay, congratulations, my dear. Mwah.
Let's all put our hands together for Claire. My dear sister Claire, it's your turn to speak.
Wow, that's all I can say at this moment. Wow. I was supposed to attend this program, read Dr. McGarrell's bio, which I have in front of me, and enjoy the afternoon of fellowship. And this afternoon is filled with so many pleasant and humbling surprises, because all I can say is thank you, Dr. EM, thank you, APC, thank you to the co-conspirators, Angela, Marcy, Desiree. I suspect Charles got something to do with this too, so we're gonna have a conversation later. But seriously, y'all got me good, and I'm grateful. You know, I was on a Women's History Month program earlier this month, and they said that women are powerful, and I'm gonna add, we know our worth, and we have the power to change, the power to innovate, and the power to care, because it just lives in each of us. And I believe it's just in our DNA, because that's what we do as women. And, you know, coming out of all the theatrics of this week, my absolute 2022 Shira is KBJ, and I'm rocking her this afternoon. Y'all see me in my blue? Yeah. Because she will soon become the next Associate
Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. And she gave us such hope. She fueled so much oxygen for girls and women and even little boys. And I am just so grateful for your acknowledgement. But there are women whose work is so much more impactful. So I just want to celebrate with all women of worth, all of you on this Zoom this afternoon, and just simply say thank you and God bless you all. And yes, Angela, you moved me to tears. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire. Thank you very much. You know, we love you. We appreciate you. We affirm you. And ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end of this program, I want to express my profound gratitude to all those who contributed to making this program a success. Sisters, you are special, you are valued, you are loved. You're a part of this community that we call Sisters Circle of Love. We are as strong as our weakest link. So I want to challenge you to pay it forward and sow into the life of another sister. So that next year when we come together like this, our circle would be even bigger. God bless you. I thank you. And we praise the Lord who has made us so very special. I don't want to call the names of all those who participated because I would risk just missing someone's name. And Claire, I apologize. I got so carried away. You should have been reading Dr. Shirley's bio indeed. So I hope you can forgive me. Yes, she said I'm forgiven. Thank you so very much. And so on behalf of APC's board and also the Guyana Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, we thank all of you that came out and celebrated with us. I hope you feel special, you feel honored, and you feel celebrated. We are now going to have the final song. Thank you so much, Kareem. That is Kareem Headley, and he is the son of Dr. Jolanda Headley. As we conclude, I want to pay a tribute to the mothers who have mothered me over the years. My mother has gone 21 years ago, Sister Barnwell, Sister Scanterbury, Sister Bristol, my biological sisters, Barbara and June, who may be here, my sister Wayne, my aunts, Megan and others, my APC family, Dr. Peters, Dr. Eloise, Claire, Hildegard, Vanell, Jean, my professional circle, Ingrid, Lois Martin. I was hoping Ingrid would be here. Enid, Jolanda Headley, Dr. Jolanda Headley, Yasmin Bowman, Beverly Chan, Dr. Carolyn, and so many more. To all of you, my sisters in Christ, I say congratulations. God bless you. And may you go forward and touch the life of someone else and make a difference. Let us pray. Great God, we want to thank you for tabernacling with us today. We pray, dear God, that as we bring this program to an end, that all those who participated would have felt your spirit in your presence and would know that they are special in your sight. Help us to go forward and sow into the lives of others. Make us vessels of honor, O God, we pray. Dismiss us with your choicest blessings now, in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Thank you, Sister Carolyn, not Carolyn, Sister Yasmin for technical support, and Troy for really pulling all the pieces together. Thank you, everyone. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you.
Since to all, Dr. Emmanuel, well done.
God bless you. Thank you very much. Dr. Shirley, we are so happy that we were able to celebrate you today.
Bless you.
Well done, well done, well done.
Praise
Thank
be
you,
to
Lord.
God. Mommy Scanterbury,
Praise
so good to see
praise-
you, my dear mom.
Praise be to God.
Amen.
Mugare's
I
mic
want to
is muted.
celebrate my daughter Celine. I don't know if she is on or if she got on and got off.
Kudos to you, Janice.
God bless you, Auntie Megan. Thank you for coming on.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, my dear cousin, Dr. Juliet Emmanuel. I see you are here. Thank you for helping us out to get the pieces together. Thank you, thank you. We celebrate you. And there's so many. Dr. Roy, we thank you for holding that secret for us. Thank you all my sisters for being a part. Sister Debbie, thank you so very much as well.
Okay, bye everyone. Yasmin, job well done.
Bye, 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 bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Dr. Roy.
They're trying to unmute.
Yes.
Yes,